You're listening to Kerry Lutz's Financial Survival Network, where you get valuable information you just can't find anywhere else. To thrive in today's trying times, you need the Financial Survival Network, now more than ever. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and get your free newsletter and gift. Financial Survival Network, now more than ever.
Welcome. You are listening to watching the Financial Survival Network. I'm Kerry Lutz. Well, Ben Jeffries is with us now. You find him at atecglobal.io, the convergence of electrification, digitization, and carbon markets. I don't know if they're all compatible or not, or whether the whole thing's going to blow up or not, Ben. What does all this mean?
Yeah, it's a really interesting point. I think John Oliver said something like Bitcoin is everything you don't know about finance combined with everything you don't know about computers. And I think carbon credits is a bit like that as well. It's everything you don't understand about financial markets combined with everything around environmental auditing. But let's break it down in an easy way. So basically, what a carbon credit is if you think of it like a pair of scales. Over this side, say you drive your car somewhere, you're emitting some carbon emissions, yeah, but you don't want to do that for whatever reason, etc. You want to be like sort of helping from an environmental perspective. So you've kind of got a carbon weight over here. But what you can do is you can then effectively buy or offset, like you would with a flight or your car, someone who reduces their carbon emissions over here to balance that out. So that's effectively what a carbon credit is the ability to be able to offset your emissions and effectively pay for that privilege until we get to 100% green flights and 100% electrification around vehicles, etc., etc. So that's at a basic level what a carbon credit is or does.
At what cost here? When you see what's happening in Europe now, when you see the war, Ukraine, you have Germany shutting down their nukes, which seems to be the height of insanity. Got Russia choking off the supply of natural gas. Is this the time to be converting energy sources here? I mean, really, Ben, is it?
It's a good question. And I think, well, out of everything you just said, I mean, look at what's been happening in Europe and around drought and heat waves, et cetera, as well. So we've got a confluence of factors that are going on around. Basically, we're trying to undertake one of the biggest activities we've ever done since the Industrial Revolution, which is transition our entire energy infrastructure at the same time. Now, I reckon you could argue to the cows come home, as we say in Australia. I don't know if that translates into.
Never do come home, right? Right, Ben?
Yeah, about the relative weighting of those areas and what's important, etc. But I think this is something we've been talking about for numerous years.
All right.
And I think the most interesting point is if you look at the majority of corporations now committing to net zero goals, governments committing to energy transition, I think it's happening. Where we stand on that politically is, I think, a side point to what's really going on underneath.
I mean, I love electric cars, not because I care whether it's going to save the planet or not. I don't have any delusions about that. They're fast as hell. They're fun. They're superior to ICE engines. That's all I care about.
Yep.
All right?
Yep.
If I get a carbon tax credit in the process that I can put on my wallet, fine. But that's not what this is about. And honestly, all energy transitions that have taken place in the past were not by government edict. The market took care of it. All right. In the early 1900s, you went to New York City, like 1901, and the horse manure was piled up like 10 feet high. And then the internal combustion engine came around, and that was like a huge health benefit. The way the ICE engine is now, Ben, you could literally inhale from the tailpipe for an hour and probably not do much damage. They put out very little pollution. All right. So is it worth bankrupting the world to go about this transition, or are we better off letting the market figure it out and take its sweet time about it?
Yeah, I mean, that's a very key question. And what is governments going to play a good role or not in shaping that moving forward? So I think that's probably a bit beyond my skill set to make an accurate call on that question. But I think what we are seeing is, if you look at what is happening now, and carbon credits is an excellent example of that, is that the market is doing that transition rather than governments anyway. So it's through, for example, in our situation, we have a house in a country like Bangladesh or Cambodia who's cooking with wood. We're helping them to take up clean, better, faster, cheaper electric cooking. We then grab that data off that stove, convert that into a carbon credit because they've stopped using wood to cook. And then be it a large energy company, airline, whatever, they are then buying those credits for them to be able to then reduce their environmental footprint over there.
All right. But look, basically when you're cooking stuff on the Barbie, it tastes better if you use charcoal and if you use mesquite. All right.
Yep.
It might be cutting down on carbon emissions that way. But let's face it, electric cooking, convection cooking, as opposed to gas, natural gas. Natural gas is far superior. So I have to get an inferior dinner so that some greenies can feel good about the environment. Does that make any sense, really?
No, it's an interesting point because I had the same view until I got an induction cooktop for myself. What do you use at home?
I've got nat gas in my house, and I've got an outdoor kitchen, as they call it, and I cook with gas. And I've had electric, I've had induction, I've had halogen burners, Gaggenau stoves, and the fact of the matter is, the nat gas is better. There's just no way around it.
Okay.
It is.
Yeah.
So
I can be frying my bacon and eggs with my Bosch induction cook stove. I can be literally frying my bacon and eggs in about 20 to 30 seconds. Well, you can't do that.
I still got you beat with my nat gas.
No, you don't.
Yeah,
I've sat there and used them. I've used them side by side. A natural gas will not instantly heat up a pot like an induction stove would, because it can't do it from an energy efficiency perspective. You're talking a 70% energy versus 92%.
Better heat.
No, not with the modern induction one. No, it's much more even. Anyway, we can argue that to the.
All right. So point is, all right.
Yep.
How much difference does it make if I use a couple of BTU of nat gas or if I use some electricity? Hey, but let's go back to your premise is this transition is taking place. The government has adopted a series of policies, whether they make any sense or not, whether they're economically feasible, and whether they will be successful in the long run doesn't matter because this is what they're doing.
Yep.
So how do you make money off this is the question.
Don't just survive, thrive. The Financial Survival Network.
Torque Resources is an exploration company establishing a portfolio of premier copper-gold early-stage projects in Chile. Torque's management and technical teams have a strong track record of raising capital, discovery, and monetization of exploration successes. The company's Margarita copper-gold project is located within the prolific coastal Cordillera Belt in Chile, which hosts some of the world's largest and most profitable copper mines. The Margarita project possesses excellent discovery potential for a major copper discovery due to the strength of the alteration system, large-scale magnetic targets, and the presence of copper oxide mineralization. Drilling is anticipated to begin in Q3 of this year. Torque trades in Canada under TORQ and on the OTC under TRBMF. To learn more, go to torqueresources.com. That's torqueresources.com.
This is the Financial Survival Network. The information you need to thrive now more than ever.
Well, basically, if you look at all the major energy companies, all the major airlines, quite a lot of companies now too, have all committed to this energy transition, at least a minimum 2030, probably up to 2050, most of these companies. And there is that environmental aspect, but I think as well, it's just effectively a transition to renewable. There will be some hard points along the road, but it will give a better overall energy system that's cheaper as well. So if you look at induction cooking, and I mean, where we work, much more than, say, yourself or myself, the cost of cooking is a really big factor. And these induction cook stoves are 50% cheaper than using LPG in those same markets. So this is a really big factor too.
Here's the key. Where I am now, we don't use LPG, what we would call in the United States propane. We use nat gas. So
yes,
it's an interesting issue, but in the end, I'd rather have my charcoal grill, but that's just me. So can we buy these carbon credits at Walmart? Where do we get the carbon credits and how do we sell them? Or is that just for the big guys?
Yeah, so well, where we're getting to hopefully is that there'll be a lot more opportunity for, let's say, B2C carbon credits, where consumers can actually buy their carbon credits directly and easily. There are some great websites out there that can help. Gold Standard, which we use, do have a page where you can buy offset your whatever emissions you want to. You can do it there. Most of the credits we're doing at the moment are more B2B. So we're selling a majority to large energy companies. As the majority of our buyers at this stage.
Yeah. So how much does a carbon credit go for, and what are they worth?
Yeah. So if you look at probably the most reliable one is there's an index price called the Platts Household Device Index that's on S&P Global. It varies obviously a bit, but it's sitting around $9 to $10 a ton currently.
Okay. All right. So how long you reckon this transition is going to take? I mean, I think it's 3 decades at a minimum. You think we can do it faster than this?
Yeah, well, I'm impatient, so I'd like it to be done by the end of this decade. I think I'm overly ambitious in that goal. I reckon 2040 would be a good point at which we could realistically move towards. I think what we're trying to do globally is to bring universal abundant access to energy to everyone on the planet. I think that's a broader goal. We're getting we're already there, at least universal access in Western countries. Most of Asia is pretty much getting there now. Africa is probably the one that's a little bit more behind. But once we have that universal and easy and the cost-effective access to electrons going into households, then shifting everyone across to sort of, high quality modern cooking becomes very, very realistic. You can still have your barbecue. I love my barbecue too, but we're interested in that sort of day-to-day cooking. So,
all right, man. Hey, somebody's got to call you on the carpet about this stuff. But, like I said, I love electric vehicles, fun and superior to the ICE engine. And that's how you get the adoption. People aren't buying it because they think they're saving the world here. They're buying it because you perceive it to be superior to the existing state of the art. And, hey, if I save a couple bucks at the same time, like one of the most fun things about the Tesla app is you got these things called charging stats. And charging stats tell you how many kilowatts you used and how much you would have paid for gasoline. Now, the upsetting thing is that the price of gasoline went down, so I'm not saving as much as I was, but the price of electric hasn't gone up, so I'm still spending the same amount. I just don't feel as good about myself because I'm not saving as much money. According to this, at one point I was saving $500 a month. Now I'm down to only $321. So that's upsetting. They got to raise the price of gasoline again so I can feel better about things, Yeah.
No, I agree. I think that's a good way of looking at it as well.
Hey, but, I agree the transition's coming, but it's not coming because of the government, because of these extravagant policies. It's coming in spite of it. And that's what you got to realize. Hey, Ben, it's been great having you on. Thank you for connecting with us from the land down under. I know it's early in the morning there. I am going to visit it hopefully next summer. Hey, tell us where we find you and how we connect with you again.
Yeah, so I mean, the main point for us is our website, atecglobal.io. If you go on to, I use LinkedIn quite a bit for doing sort of business updates. So you can either follow me on Ben Jeffries on LinkedIn or ATEC on LinkedIn as well. We're also on Twitter and Facebook, ATEC Global 1 on both those platforms as well.
Hey, think about it. A few short years ago, this conversation would have been impossible. 10 years ago, 15 years ago, here we are. Government didn't force this down anybody's throat, although you could make the argument during the pandemic that we had no other choice. But point is, this was well underway, just accelerated an existing trend, and maybe that's what we're going to see here. Hey, got a question for Ben? Shoot me an email, kl@kerrylutz.com. And while you're on the site, financialsurvivalnetwork.com, make sure you go sign up for your free newsletter. Also, I want to know how you are reacting to this transition. Do you have an EV? Do you plan to get an EV? Or are you sticking with the gasoline-powered car till you can no longer buy spark plugs for it because big government will stop you? I'd like to know all these things. KL@kerrylutz.com. Ben, been an absolute pleasure. Thanks so much for coming by.
Thanks, Kerry. That was fun.
Thanks for listening to Kerry Lutz's Financial Survival Network, your solution to today's trying times. For the latest, go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com. Financial Survival Network, now more than ever.